Thanks, guys, for being online here. Let me get the audio going. I'm going to push it out to Facebook Live as well as to YouTube Live. So just give me a second to get all configured here, and then we'll go from there. And this will be recorded in case you want to get outside and enjoy the sunshine. Okay, microphone. And then Rachel, can you pull it up? Can you bring up Facebook on your phone by chance? And just see if we can get some audio going. And then Leslie, if you don't mind, I'm going to mute you just so that I don't get any feedback in my ear while I'm presenting. Thanks, Leslie. All right. No, I'm not live yet. So sorry, guys. It's the first time going live on both. So let me get those set up. Share on a page you manage. Okay. All right. There's that. And it doesn't look like I can do YouTube Live at the same time? No, I don't have it. I haven't pushed it out yet. I think we're there. All right, I think we're live. All right, so I think we're live. Rachel, yep, Rachel checked it. I want to get some audio and visual checks from my participants on Zoom. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you can hear my audio okay? And if you can see the parent university on. Excellent. All right, we're good to go. So those of you on the Zoom, you're not going to see my face because I'm going to stand in front of the screen and go through everything. But I'll be available here. I'll be able to hear you as well via my microphone. Okay, so we'll get started. All right. So with this, what we're going to cover this evening, and I do appreciate you guys being here with us because it is 6 o'clock on an absolutely beautiful fall evening, first day of fall, and it's definitely living up to its potential this evening. So beautiful fall day, and I do appreciate you guys all joining us. What we're going to cover for this evening's Parent University session is Yardsticks. And Yardsticks is one of those classic, tried and true undergraduate education books that many of your teachers have had to read in their undergraduate education experiences. It's in its 4th edition by Chip Wood, and it is one that is a great read because it's not one that you're going to read beginning to end on the first session. You're going to read it in increments as you're raising your child and as your child is growing. And what I want to key on are a few key elements on grade ages 5 through 14. And so the books did get delayed by just one day. They're coming in tomorrow, but we do have copies for all of you that signed up. And we will get those out to you. If your child comes to us face to face, we'll get those out to your child and send them home with them tomorrow. Or if your child is an attendee of our Cyber Academy, we'll send them out via the mail. So we'll get those out to you starting tomorrow. So we're looking at the 4th edition of Yardsticks. And it is a great read to just look at the short segments of those ages as you're progressing through. So let's talk about a few things to think about before we jump into the different ages. One key thing I want you to remember is that the stages of growth do follow a fairly predictable pattern. So we're going to look at stages, we're going to look at ages 5 through 14, and we're looking at those common predictable patterns. But do not get upset if you feel as though your child is behind or ahead of those stages that we talk about, because all children do not proceed through the stages at the same pace. And so you need to be comfortable with that. But with that being said, when you read through this book, one of the key things that we do suggest is that you read this book in a 3-year age bracket. So if your child is a 6-year-old, I suggest that you read the 5-year-old section, the 6-year-old section, and the 7-year-old section so that you can see where they were, possibly where they are, and also where they're going. And keep in mind that when we look at cognitive growth, so mental growth as well as physical growth, it is uneven. So what you're going to see with your child is that you'll see significant jumps in cognitive growth and physical growth, possibly at different times. But then there also may be times where it is fairly stagnant. So know that you're going to see these giant spikes, and then you're going to see consistency and possibly another giant spike, especially with puberty, and then consistency again. So know that it's not just this common upward trend. It's going to be more of an up and down pattern. And also know too that your child's behavior at school can be very different at home. And I'm thinking back to that meme that came around in the spring where it said, "No, my child is not a pleasure to have in school." And it just absolutely made me laugh because as parents, when you're experiencing the COVID pandemic and you had to keep your child at home during the entire lockdown time, you thought, man, this is so difficult. And know that, and I'm going to highlight one age in particular where the kids act very differently at school than they do at home, and that's okay. So you can be comfortable with that. So those of you that are participating virtually, and maybe you're on Facebook Live or possibly on the Zoom call, I have a bit.ly there. It's bit.ly/Yardsticks 2020, and it's a digital activity to complement the physical activity that we're going to do today. And what I want to encourage you to do is the people that are here face to face are going to take small slips of paper. And what I did is I developed a quote for ages 5 through 14. And what you're going to have to do is predict which age says what, or will commonly say what, based on their developmental level. And those of you that are digital, what you're going to do is you're going to go into a Google Jamboard. And on that Google Jamboard, you're going to see I have 5 through 14 are listed. And you'll see on the right-hand side, and that's the bit.ly/Yardsticks 2020 link. With that, you're going to see Post-it notes on the right-hand side. And what you want to do is take that same quote and those Post-it notes, and you're going to move those over to the different ages on where you think that quote lands for the different ages. And this can serve as a great kind of pre-assessment quiz for you to see where you think the kids are and where their common quotes fall. And then actually, as I go through the different ages, you're going to be able to see the patterns that exist. And I'll give you the answers here at the very end to test your skills on it. Okay? All right, so let's jump into our fun little 5-year-olds. So our fun little 5-year-olds, they do thrive on a clear, predictable schedule. So those of you that are parents and guardians that have 5-year-olds, if you tell them at the beginning of the day, this is what we're going to do today, and you're very clear and it's predictable, or if there has to be a change and you tell them, okay, we're going to stop here and pick up these groceries first before we go home, They really thrive on that. They like to know what's clear and predictable. 5-year-olds also do commonly, and you may notice this already when they're coming back from school. You might say, "Hey, how was school?" "Good." "Learn anything new today?" "Yeah, it was fun." And they're very short in their responses as 5-year-olds. And this is an area where you can start to develop more opened versus closed questions. So start to think as a parent and guardian. And I know this is something that I'm working on with my nieces, where I'm asking questions that provide open dialogue. So I'm not asking questions that result in a yes or no answer. I'm not asking questions that can be a short one-word answer, but what I'm practicing is more open dialogue. So tell me what you did in your English language arts class today, or tell me what games you played at recess today. How does it make you feel when this occurs? So you provide more open questioning, and with 5-year-olds, this really helps with their language development. So you want to practice, and it's something that I know I've been really working on in my thinking and working with younger ones, as far as guiding them to develop that language and be able to describe what they're thinking or what they experience through that day. And then finally, with your 5-year-olds, they do take the world in through their senses. So they will touch everything. They will obviously, they want to run around. They want to smell things. They want to taste things. And so encourage that. So if you have that opportunity, if you're able to cook alongside with your child, if you're able to read books along with your child, encourage the fact that they may want to touch things, they may want to move around at the same time, and they want to taste things. Really encourage that aspect of taking in the world through their senses. Now, when we go through all of these age groups, I want to highlight from the book, from Yardsticks, some key components when it comes to physical growth, which is that first column on the far left-hand side. I want to highlight 1 or 2 items when it comes to their social emotional development. So what you can expect to see, or what you may already see as a parent or guardian. I'll also talk about communication. That's the next one on the right-hand side with the 2 individuals talking and their communication development. And then finally, on the far right-hand side with the brain, I'm going to talk to you briefly just a key component or multiple components on their cognitive development. So when you look at 5-year-olds, 5-year-olds commonly utilize their pointer finger to assist with reading. And that is okay. You want to encourage the child to utilize their pointer finger when it comes to assisting them with reading. So if they are right now using that pointer finger, and it doesn't matter which one, left or right, as they're trying to read books and read words, that is okay. Encourage that. And that ties in with the multiple senses aspect. They also are starting to develop spacing and tracking spacing. So commonly in the classroom, the teachers will utilize a variety of strategies to encourage children to space out their words. It might be using their finger, it might be using Spaceman, which is an activity that we use. So there's a variety of strategies that we use in the classroom, but you can also use utilizing their finger just to track spacing, because you may have words that your 5-year-old will just put them all together. So know that that's a developmental aspect, and that's okay, but encourage them to use their finger. One common thing is you'll see that your 5-year-olds fall out of their chair sideways. So it's a common developmental factor that is actually sideways, not backwards, not forwards, but sideways. And when it comes to writing, it encourages the use of a pencil grip. It is difficult for the children to hold the pencils, so pencil grips do help. And so if they do complain about their fingers getting tired or sore, it is perfectly fine for them to utilize a pencil grip at this age. Know social emotionally that older 5s, you may start to notice that little aspect of opposition at times. So if you get a little put off by that, that's okay. Know that that's part of their developmental aspects. When it comes to communication, your 5-year-olds take language very literally. And so this is, if you're following with the paper, or if you're following digitally, this is a great story that I have from my experience with a kindergarten classroom. So the teacher was up in front of the class, the kids were getting ready, it was the afternoon, and she said, okay, all right, who needs to take care of makeups? Okay, Johnny, you get in line, you have to take care of your makeup. Isabel, you have to get in line, you have to take care of your makeup. Everybody get in line, and whoever has to do their makeups, do your makeups. And I'm standing there, and little Johnny turns around to Isabel and says, "Why are we getting makeup put on?" And so like he really thought literally that we are putting makeup on children, and it wasn't that they were doing makeup exams. And so that's that age level where communication wise, they really take their language literally. And this is also a time as 5-year-olds where they're developing that sense of time. So if you have a clock that changes colors, if you focus the pointer finger and say, okay, when the pointer finger hits the 6 and you highlight where that pointer finger is, that's when we're going to go to the zoo. All of those things help children when it comes to their cognitive development, especially with 5-year-olds. So let's transition into our 6s. So our 6s are very different because they want quantity over quality. So they want to try new things. They want to try new different types of reading. They'll go from game to game to game, and they won't actually technically finish typically. They are highly encouraged to just try and try different things. Also with 6-year-olds, they absolutely love treats and surprises. If there's one age that I'd say that, you know, they really care about new surprises and treats and new ideas, this is it. So if you are a parent that likes to write little notes in your child's lunch, or do the Rice Krispie treat activity where you can write on the actual Rice Krispie treat, this is an age to do it because 6-year-olds really thrive and value that, whereas your 13-year-old is just going to put it in their pocket and not pay attention to it. So this is an age to really hit them up with a variety of surprises. But know that your 6-year-olds, they are going to tire easily, and it is common for them to have frequent illnesses at this age, and that is okay because of their bodies and because of how much they're changing. They do thrive on encouragement, and they do get easily upset with criticism. So definitely work with them on the encouragement as you go through. Now, with that being said, if they're quantity over quality, know that they're going to be fast, they're going to be noisy, and they're going to be sloppy. So they're going to be in a hurry. And this is an age where in 5-year-olds, where they would fall out of their chair sideways, your 6-year-olds fall out of their chair typically backwards. And they also are teething at this point in time, so they are heavy chewers. So if you notice that your pencils are destroyed at home, or the crayons, or colored pencils, that is common for 6-year-olds. So they need to find something to teeth on to help reduce that strain on their teeth. When it comes to social emotional development, your 6-year-olds are highly competitive. They are anxious to do well. In communication skills, they do love guessing games. So they love activities where they have to guess something, or figure out what's going on inside their head. They might be ones that'll say, "Guess what I'm thinking about right now," and they'll just leave that question out there completely open, and you have to try and guess for them. So they do really enjoy those guessing games, and so you can really capitalize on that as a parent. This is also an age when it comes to cognitive growth, because they do thrive on surprises. They love trips and excursions. So any new ideas or trips and excursions that you can make, even during this pandemic year, that get them outside to explore the world, do help. This is also an age of artistic explosion. Now, they might pick up the paints and only spend about 6 or 7 minutes on it and then move on to something else, but still be okay with that, because again, this is a group that's going to just try a whole variety of things in a day, and they just go for that quantity over quality. Now, as you move over to your 7-year-olds, you're going to start to see a transition here where the 7-year-olds do spend more time inwards. They do focus on their best friend, and especially with your girls, that best friend can change fairly frequently. So it could be that Mary was their best friend last week, but this week Mary is not their best friend, it's somebody else. But they do focus a lot on having that best friend. And where the 6-year-olds would be fairly sloppy and messy, you're going to see with your 7-year-old, they're going to transition and be a little bit more precision focused. They do tend to be more perfectionists. They do tend to be more inventive. One of the suggestions that I have for any parents or guardians that do have 7-year-olds or 6s that are turning 7, think of different ideas when it comes to inventiveness and be open to giving them activities. One that I really like are all the books of things that you can do to invent based out of a cardboard box. I don't know about you, but I have a massive amount of cardboard boxes from all my Amazon Prime purchases. So there's a lot of great books out there, and simple activities that kids can do to be inventive with just a cardboard box. So really capitalize on that, but also know that your child's going to be a perfectionist. So they're going to take some time. Whereas as a 6-year-old, they will be much more sloppy and they'll just want to make a variety of items as opposed to one really good item. So I do suggest with 7-year-olds some great cardboard box activities for them. Now, when it comes to their developmental growth, do not be set off if the child is working at home with their head on the desk and possibly with one eye closed. That is a fairly predictable pattern, believe it or not, for 7-year-olds, and that's okay. So if you notice that your child has their head down on the desk with one eye closed, believe it or not, they probably are actually still working. So that is a developmental aspect. When it comes to social emotional development, your 7-year-olds do need security and structure. They also tend to be more neat and tidy compared to being a 6. This is a great age when it comes to communication for secret codes. They absolutely love secret codes or secret communication styles. This is also another great age if you want to start getting them used to a new language, since a new language counts as a secret code for them. That is a great age to start with developing a new language. So they really do enjoy that aspect in this age. And then, as we talked about with this age, because they are perfectionists, they like to work slowly and they want to finish. So they do value getting that homework done. They do value making sure that the entire worksheet is completed and completed to the best of their ability. So know that it might be 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, it's well past their bedtime, but they're still trying to make sure that they get that assignment done. And that's because of their developmental age. And so that's okay. Now, your 8-year-olds, this is the age of unicorns and your superheroes. And this is something that the kids really enjoy as 8-year-olds. If they say that they're bored, it probably likely means that this is too hard. This is a group that they're very impatient. They do get frustrated fairly quickly. However, on the benefit, they are very talkative and they do work really well in groups. Whereas, previous age are typically more inward. This age, they're starting to be a little bit more talkative and working with groups. They absolutely love novelty. This is another age where if you integrate positive surprises, they really enjoy it, just like your 6s. This is also an age where they have that developmental moral sense, and they really focus on what's fair. So if you have other children in the household and you might have a rule for one child as opposed to another, this is the age the 8-year-olds are going to say, well, that's not fair, or that's not fair for me, or that's not fair for Johnny, whatever it might be. So this is where you're going to see that, because they're starting to develop that moral sense of what is fair. Now, when you look at development, they work hard and they play hard at this age. And so if they really crash after playing in sports or whatever it might be, that's okay. So know that you're going to see a lot of really heavy, intense exertion when it comes to this age, both cognitively as well as physically. So, and then they probably will crash very quickly on their beds. They do love social emotionally. They love to share jokes at this age. And it is a great age to try a variety of things because they do really well at bouncing back from mistakes and disappointments. This is an age where they will pay attention, but they don't always remember. So I think back to my days with my father and, him questioning, well, are you paying attention? And I'd say, yes, I'm paying attention. Well, what did I just say? And I wouldn't be able to regurgitate back exactly what he said. So this is a great age where you're going to see that. So yes, they are genuinely paying attention, but they're not always able to remember and regurgitate back what was being said. This is also an age you can expect exaggeration. That's why you have the unicorns, the love of unicorns. You have the love of superheroes in this age. So that's encouraged, and they have a variety of ideas. You want to let them explore all of those different ideas that they have. Now, your 9-year-olds, as they transition, this is your worrier group, and so this is the group that we are very concerned about when it comes to in dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic, because they already are worriers in general at this age, let alone in a pandemic year. So this is, if you have a 9-year-old at home, really strive to help reduce that anxiety, or you're probably, as a parent, you've already seen a significant amount of anxiety just because of the change. And so as a parent or guardian, do the best that you can to help reduce that anxiety that child is experiencing. But if you see it at a high rate, it's probably with your 9-year-old. Commonly, you'll see them twist their hair, they'll bite their nails. Your 9-year-olds do focus on fairness. They want to know what's fair, and ensuring that people do remain fair. They define themselves in new ways. This is where you'll see them want to do a new hairstyle or want to dress differently. They're just trying to find a way to define who they are. And this is an area where, as they're developing, you want to be open with the fact that they may pick up or drop a variety of different sports or possibly a musical instrument. So if your child says, hey, I want to play the clarinet for the rest of my life, and they're 9 years old, just rent that musical instrument, because it's not a guarantee that they're going to commit to that clarinet at the start, since they're 9 years old. So this is an age where try a variety of different things, but know that it's okay, because their interest will shift during this year. And so encourage them to participate in activities, encourage them to try different instruments, but just start off with renting if you're going down the instrument path, because they may change their mind, and you don't want to be frustrated or disappointed about it. So when it comes to physical development, this is where the 9-year-old is going to benefit from fine motor skills. So this is where we're going to start to see skills such as typing will become more apparent, more detailed artistic work. You'll see more in 9-year-olds. So the fine motor skills are much more evident in this age, and they're starting to refine them more. So you're going to see more detailed work from the kids when it comes to physical. In social emotional areas, they are very individualistic. They are easily frustrated, and you are going to hear, I hate it. And that's okay. That's 9, and that's the life of being a 9-year-old at times. Know that you can expect exaggeration from your 9-year-old. For some reason, they love inappropriate jokes just to see people's reactions, and also graffiti. They tend to be really interested in graffiti, and that's where you'll see they may be drawing on a desk, or they may be drawing on a table, and you're wondering, like, what are you thinking? Why are you doing that? That's part of their development as a 9-year-old. But they do focus cognitively on the real world. They don't have the abstract skill development yet, but they're getting there. So they really just focus on the real world aspects when it comes to cognitive development. Now, 10-year-olds, typically people say this is the golden age to have, that everybody loves having a 10-year-old. They're ideal for large groups. They retain facts well. They absolutely love to read. They love being with their family. They love social order. I hear over and over again, 10-year-olds are your ideal year to have, because we all know what happens when we get up into those teens. But with that being said, I think every single age has the benefits and the love that you get from your child. But know that 10-year-olds is a really fun age. They do great in group work. They do great with memorizing things. They absolutely love to read. They love to spend time with the family. This is an area where you can start to commit to a musical instrument or commit to a sport. And the kids also absolutely love order. Know that their large muscles are developing quickly at this stage, and we're going to talk about in the next age about making sure that they have plenty to eat. But know that this is an area where large muscles, so your thigh muscles, your buttocks muscles, all those larger muscles in the body are starting to develop quickly for the kids. They are quick to anger, but also the benefit, another reason why people love the tens is because they're also quick to forgive everybody. They read voraciously, so if you have a heavy reader, definitely keep getting those books in their hands. This will do a tremendous benefit for their vocabulary development and their communication development. So just keep feeding them those books. And also as tens, they're very good at memorizing when it comes to cognitive development, and they're starting to develop that abstract thinking skills. So this is just where it starts to develop in their cognitive development. So everybody loves the tens. Tens are a lot of fun. Now we get into 11s, and this is where you start to see the self-consciousness, the changing bodies. Girls begin their growth spurt typically at 11s, and it can affect their activities. So know if, for example, I'll give you a great example of, say, swimming is a good one. Say you had a swimmer all your as a child, and when they hit 11, they're like, oh, I don't want to swim anymore. But they may have started puberty. They may have started their menstrual cycle. So it might be not the fact that they don't want to swim. It's just the fact that their bodies are changing. They've experienced their first menstrual cycle and they don't want to go through that adjustment. So be very cognizant and don't take to heart if they want to say they don't want to be part of certain activities. Try and get to the heart of it. It could be, especially if you have an 11-year-old, that it's the growth spurt aspect or the changing body that's affecting why they're choosing to do certain activities. Your 11s, they're going to have a lot of aches and pains. Their bones are growing so much faster. And so with that being said, know that heat pads, cool pads, and icy hot and those things can really help kids because they are going to experience a lot of aches and pains. This is an age where they were all about family at the tens, but now they're going to start moving towards their peers. So they will become more devoted to their peers at the age of 11. And this is also an area where the competition is starting to increase as an 11-year-old. And know that this is an age when the kids tend to drop out of sports and activities. It doesn't have to just be sports. It could be chess club. It could be robotics club, whatever it might be. This is where you want to push that 11-year-old to push through in being an 11 through that phase. Competition is getting fiercer. It's getting more difficult. Really support them as a parent and guardian through that phase so that they are able to continue it once they're done being 11 and 12 years old. So know that this is an area where you may have your child asked to drop out of different sports and activities. They do get easily frustrated. They'll definitely voice it to you and let you know. This is the age too where they'll demonstrate behavior problems for you at home, but not typically at school. They're the ones that the teacher will say that they're an absolute pleasure to have in class, but they might be a terror for you at home during this time. And this is an age too where they're struggling with the management of homework. And we know that the COVID scenario has not made it any easier. But with that being said, we are trying to find ways to teach kids, especially our 11s, 12s, and 13s, how to manage that homework load and how to manage their time. Because that is an area where at this age, it's a challenge, whether you're virtual, whether you're physical and face-to-face with school. So managing homework and managing their time is a very difficult aspect for 11-year-olds. So as I said, with the 10s and 11s, make sure if they're voracious eaters, if they constantly want food, it's okay. They need lots of food because they're going through that developmental growth spurt. Social emotionally, they're impulsive. They really want to test your limits at this point in time. They'll be very moody. They'll be self-absorbed. They'll be sensitive. So they're all over the gambit when it comes to social emotional skills. And they also are very defensive when it comes to making mistakes. So they will defend themselves if it comes to making mistakes. Now, your 12-year-olds are starting to look for their identity. We know that developmentally, it is difficult for your child to wake up in time for school at this age. It's a developmental factor. And it's also one of the reasons why we chose to have our cyber days on Tuesdays and Thursdays to start at 10, because once you get to 12 and up, developmentally, your kids want to stay up later and they want to wake up later. And that's a biological developmental factor. It's not any one person's fault or responsibility. It's just the aspect of their development, and that's okay. So know that, you know, if you're frustrated in getting your child up in time for school, know that that's a developmental factor. Kids at this age, at the age of 12, they care more about their peers' views than adults. They do take on jobs and responsibilities. This is a great time for them to mow neighbors' yards for a couple dollars. The Babysitters Club is a great example. So all of those different jobs and responsibilities, this is a great time for them. But then it's also the age of excuses. So if you hear a lot of excuses, know that that's common with your 12-year-olds. They will stay up late. They care about their peers' perspectives, but this is also an age where with 12, you're going to start to see where they excel in a particular subject, and they'll really start to express their likes and dislikes when it comes to particular subjects. Now with 13s, they're that dichotomy where they want you to notice them, they want you to listen as the adult and talk to them, but then they also want you to leave them alone. So they are the ones that, as much as they'll say, you know, I don't care, or leave me alone, don't bother me, they're also the ones that the more they try to push you away as an adult, that should equate to you, the more they want you to listen to them, they want you to talk with them. So know the more that they push you away as a 13-year-old, actually, in their very twisted experience, it means that they really want you to be closer to them. They'll challenge you, they challenge peers. This is an age where at 13, you really see extreme differences between the sexes, because your females are really starting to experience that growth spurt and going through it, and your males are just getting started. They will hibernate and isolate. So as an adult and as a parent and guardian, you want to push your kids out a little bit more. And try not to have them constantly hibernate or isolate in their bedroom. You want to get them out and doing activities. They do have a fragile sense of self, so they will work at every level to protect that, but they also need your adult encouragement. This is also a time where, as 13-year-olds, they do excel in having adult jobs. So for example, taking out the garbage, making a meal for the family once a week, doing their own laundry, those kind of things. They might roll their eyes at you and they might say, you know, this is stupid, or I don't want to do this. In all actuality, they do like wanting to be an adult. So give them more adult jobs, put them in charge of planning out a meal for the week for the family, where they have to think about, you know, what are the groceries that I need? What do I need to do on the countertop? What do I need to put out on the table? Those adult jobs, they really enjoy having that opportunity to be an adult, because they want to be an adult at this age. So give them those opportunities. Mowing the lawn is another big one that 13-year-olds really enjoy. When it comes to developmental, skin problems are common, so really encourage with them to maintain good hygiene. Washing their faces constantly helps reduce that. 13-year-olds, if any of you have them, you know they're moody, they're sensitive, they're easily hurt. It doesn't take much, and they're upset over it. So they are very moody. When it comes to cognitive development, they're unwilling to take risks. So this is not an age where you want to say, hey, go ahead and let's try this new club, or let's try this new activity. They're so worried about protecting their sense of self that they're not going to really take that many risks. And it's going to be a difficult age to see any changes there. And this is also the age where you start to see those likes and dislikes. They become much more pronounced. Now, 14-year-olds, it's the last group in this book, in our text. With 14-year-olds, they're very, very loud. So if you've ever been in a middle school cafeteria, you'll notice that middle schoolers will find the loudest person in the cafeteria and then try and be louder than that person. So it just gets louder and louder and louder when it comes to 14-year-olds. They do have an adult-like sense of what's right and what's wrong. They start to become very loyal, like loyal to their sports hero or loyal to their sports team, loyal to a particular musician or music group, or loyal to art or particular artists. They're not always good at following directions, but they absolutely love to give directions. So they love being bossy, but they don't always follow your directions very well. They do challenge adult authority. They are easily embarrassed, although they will act very confident. So they'll seem very sure. They're very confident of themselves, but they're easily embarrassed. And they are also your big negotiators, where you'll come up with an idea and they'll say, well, how about if we do this? But 14-year-olds are very impressionable. So this is a good age to really take them to a variety of museums. You can do virtual, you can do physical museums, but really get them out into different experiences so that they are much more impressionable at this age. They might act as though it's boring, or they might not, they might challenge you as an adult, but I can tell you that when you look at the cognitive development of things, 14-year-olds do very well with museum experiences, and that's why I put the Louvre in the background there. So know that this is your time. If you have a boy 14-year-old, this is where your growth spurt typically happens, if it hasn't happened already. They will use a lot of face-saving behavior. They do act like know-it-alls when it comes to social emotional development, but they do like learning how things work. They like cause and effect. And so with that being said, that's why museums are really impactful when it comes to 14-year-olds. So if you have that opportunity, or if you're able to do it, there's a variety of them listed in that are virtual museums that are listed in our return to school plan, specifically for parents and guardians, that I encourage you to utilize, because they really do, as a 14-year-old, enjoy that. So that's our age groups from 5 to 14. So let's test how you did with the quotes, and I'm going to put those answers up for you. You can see ages 5 through 14. These are your typical quotes. The first one I kind of gave to you because that was a funny experience that I had with a kindergarten teacher. But no, like age 8, everything, it's not fair. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. 9, why are some people cruel to animals? It's because your 9s are so focused on the goodness and what's fair and what's right and what's wrong in the world. And 13, I'm sure many of you, if you've experienced the 13-year-old, it's common for them to say, leave me alone, you just don't understand me. And our 14s are obviously very confident, where commonly they'll say, well, I knew that, I just didn't want to tell you, I didn't want you to know. So those are your 5 to 14, some common aspects. And what you'll see is we'll provide you the Yardsticks book. It goes into much more detail. This is just an overview of each age group. Know that this is a classic text that your teachers utilize in their undergraduate studies. And I found it to be a great read because it's one where you can just look at the sections as you're experiencing your child growing up. We do ask that you evaluate how things went this evening, and you can utilize the bit.ly there or that QR code. That does help us. We do use the data that we have as part of our Title I program. And for our next one, for Parent University for October, we have some great ideas brewing that we want to have for all of you to encourage literacy for our younger learners. But we want to know kind of what interests you and what sessions do you want to have, and do you want us to continue to offer blended as well as Facebook Live opportunities, or do you want the face-to-face opportunities? So we do thank you sincerely for being part of this Parent University session. Please feel free to give us your thoughts, and I hope that you're able to learn something new and able to try out a few strategies with your younger ones. So thank you very much. Good, so it did work. All right, let me unlive this.